This is World Awakenings, the fast track to enlightenment with your host, Carl Gruber. World Awakenings is a podcast dedicated to opening your mind, your heart, and your eyes to the fact that the world's population is now, more than ever, awakening to all things spiritual, metaphysical, and enlightening, and just how they play an all-important role in our daily life. So join Carl on this enlightening experience as he interviews metaphysical and spiritual experts to discuss, debate, and delve deeply into the hows and whys of this worldwide awakening.
Hey, this is World Awakenings, the fast track to enlightenment, and this is our 217th show. Welcome, I'm your host, Carl Gruber. Now, as always, we continue our pursuit of talking one-on-one with the world's top teachers, experts, masters, and spiritual leaders to help us find the answer to the question, why now, more than ever, are the people of the world awakening to all things spiritual, metaphysical, and enlightening? Now, before we meet today's guest, let me remind you that not only can you watch the show on YouTube, but now World Awakenings is also broadcast on New Reality TV. You can find the link to New Reality TV in our show notes, so you can check it out there. So today we speak with Julie Ryan, who is an inventor, serial entrepreneur, medical intuitive, and psychic whose learned skills have helped many families understand the glorious side of the dying process. She is also able to communicate with and heal animals. Plus, she has her own highly successful podcast, Ask Julie Ryan, which I really recommend, and is the author of numerous books, including Angelic Attendants, What Really Happens as we transition from this life into the next, plus 4 children's books, including Angel Messages for Kids. So with that, Julie, I'm so happy to have you right here on World Awakenings.
Oh, my honor, Carl. What a delight to be with you.
Yeah, and I really am excited because, we were reminiscing a little bit on here. Julie grew up here in Columbus, Ohio, where I'm based. We're both Ohio State University grads, so we've been blabbing away on that. But let's dive right into you. And forgive me, I've got a little bit of a rough voice, but I think I can get through this. Let's dive right into your life and how you got to where you are now and what you do. How does an inventor of medical devices and a serial entrepreneur end up being a psychic, medical intuitive, and the host of a podcast and an author?
Well, it's kind of a fun story, Carl. I was given a book called Anatomy of the Spirit more than 30 years ago by Carolyn Mace, who called herself a medical intuitive. And I thought, well, what the heck is that? Because at that point in my career, I'd been involved in the hospital supply industry for probably about 10 years, maybe a little longer. And I wanted to help people heal, but I was doing it through the traditional medical ways, helping doctors and surgeons and other medical providers help care for their patients in the hospital setting. So I was really interested in what a medical intuitive was. And back then, we didn't have the internet yet, Carl. So I did the old-fashioned thing and I went to a bookstore to see if I could find something else to read because I thought, well, they're more likely to have something even than my local library. And I found a book called Hands of Light by the late Dr. Barbara Brennan. And she was a former NASA physicist who parlayed very complex quantum physics principles into understandable English for the non-scientific mind. That would be me. And she was using quantum physics energy to help people heal. And I thought, whoa, this is really fascinating. And I called her school to see if there was somebody in my area, perhaps, that was teaching this stuff. And lo and behold, there was. There was a graduate of Barbara Brennan's school. And I studied with her for 6 years. So she parlayed what Dr. Brennan had come up with, used her own techniques. It all comes out kind of as a goulash. And then over the years, I've used my own techniques as well and added to all of that. So at the time, over those 6 years, my family and friends were saying, "Well, why are you taking this class?" I'm saying, "I don't know." And they'd say, "Well, what are you going to do with it?" I said, "Again, I have no clue, but it's just fascinating." Fast forward 30 years, now I do it full time. So I learned how to do all this stuff, Carl. I am not a psychic that had dead people chasing her as a 5-year-old, or if I did, I didn't know it, let alone what I would have done with that information. And I now teach people all over the world, so far from 15 countries around the world, to do all of the what I call my buffet of psychicness, all of that. Because what I found, Carl, is once we connect with spirit, we can do it all. You can do healing stuff. You can have conversations with spirits, whether they're attached to a body or not is irrelevant. Whether you knew them or not is irrelevant. Past lives, spirit guides, angels, on and on and on and on. As you mentioned, pets. It's been really a fascinating journey. I sold my surgical device manufacturing company in 2015, and that freed up time for me to get into the woo-woo, as I call it. I'm a businesswoman who learned how to do woo-woo, and I'm a buffet of psychicness.
I love that. It's interesting because I have been reading your book, Angelic Attendants. I downloaded the free ebook, and we'll talk about that. But many of my guests, I've had medical intuitives on here and psychics and mediums, and many of them, when they grew up as children, they had those abilities. But you pretty much grew up in a normal setting without really any of these abilities developed yet.
Exactly. And we all come in with the hardware. We all come in with the ability to communicate with spirit. We can see things with our mind's eye. We have intuition. We get feelings about things. And then as we grow up, about the age of 6-ish, 7-ish, our grown-ups around us are saying, "Oh, honey, that's just your imagination. That's
Mhm.
not really real." And the funny thing about that, Carl, is that that's the primary way that spirit communicates with us. Imagination is a very big, plays a very big role in the work that I do. When I'm working with somebody on a medical intuitive energy healing, on Thursday nights, we do a live show and people call in from all over the world, and I scan their livers or talk to their dead grandma or do a healing on their cat, or we do a past life thing. It's really fun because I never know who's calling. I never know what they're going to ask. But you'll hear me say, if you listen to one of my shows, you'll hear me say, "Okay, imagine your elbow looks like whipped cream. Imagine this, imagine that."
Mhm.
Because spirit working through me and with me utilizes all of these analogies that are familiar to us from a human perspective to help us envision and have a frame of reference for the healing that's happening or the spirit communication that's coming in.
Well, I've always heard that too. Spirit will communicate with us exactly what you said in a way that we can relate to and understand where we're at in our life and our perspective and knowledge at that point. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing that's important to remember, 2 points: time doesn't exist in the spirit world, time's a human creation. And the other thing is, spirit communication is numerals, it's numeric, it's numbers. And that's the universal communication language. If you think about it, is numbers, regardless of what language you speak, regardless of it, if it's a dead language. Or remember the movie Contact with Jodie Foster
Hmm.
back at the,
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if it was in the 90s, maybe. And alien communication was numeric. That's how spirit communicates because that's a universal language. And then our brains are similar to big decoding devices. Makes me think of World War II when the Allies were able to decode the Nazi communication and
Hmm.
it helped them win the war. That decoding can come in the form of a picture, thought, a feeling, a scent, some kind of audible sign that we get, any one of a number of those, and really a combination of all of them.
I find that curious. Spirit communicates via numbers. Seems to me, isn't that how computers work too? Aren't they
Yeah.
numerological?
Yeah. Well, and as science catches up to woo woo, which I love because the woo woo's been around for forever. And woo, by the way, means source in Taoism. Most people don't know that. I love woo woo. I think it's fun. And it stops people in their tracks and they go, woo woo, what are you talking about? But woo means source. And when we think about the Fibonacci sequence, right, we think about vortex mathematics, we think about how other things happen and they all involve numerals. Makes sense that that's how spirit communicates and how the information comes in.
Well, I have a question in that you became a psychic medium and medical intuitive, even though much of your waking hours were dedicated to your businesses, creating inventions, and raising a family too. How were you able to fit everything in and live a happy, balanced life? I mean, that had to be a challenge.
Well, I went to class, I think it was once a week for an evening, and it wasn't every week. Certainly there were, I don't know, we used to call them quarters at the Ohio State University, our alma mater, but now they use semesters. We certainly had a structure like that. It integrated, and what I learned, and also this pertains to how I teach too, Carl, is it's a transfer of energy from me to my students at a very high vibrational level. I always say it's 10% technique, 90% transfer of energy. And I teach a class on the buffet of psychicness. I teach one online in the spring, and then I have an in-person one in the fall. My next one is October 24th through the 26th in Atlanta. It's a weekend, and the vibration is so high. People come in from all over the world for that, Carl. It's really fascinating. And I say, you don't have to try with this. You want to get your vibration level high, be able to hold it, and then let spirit work through you and with you. It's not hard. It's super easy, and everybody's doing some aspect of it, whether they realize it or not. I just help them enhance what they already have.
Very interesting. So you do live events too, but what was your first experience, or is there one particular off the charts non-physical experience that changed the course of your life?
Yeah, and I talk about it in the book. One of my best friends from childhood, from Columbus, grew up 2 doors down from me. She lives in Oklahoma City, and she was a victim of the Oklahoma City bombing several decades ago now. And I knew that she'd been injured. Her office was downtown. I couldn't reach her on the phone. I couldn't reach her husband. I couldn't get through to their nanny that took care of their baby. And I knew. And I ran downstairs and I said to my husband, Patty's been hurt. And I know she's been hurt. And he said, well, have you talked to her? And I said, no, I just know it. And he said, oh, you're nuts. Just keep trying to get a hold of her. Well, lo and behold, what happened was the bombing went off. She was across the street from the Murrah building. Her window came in, forced her head down on her desk, and then the ceiling collapsed. And she had dozens of stitches in the back of her head. And thank God she lived and she's okay. She had some memory loss for a while because of the concussion, but she's survived. Some of her colleagues didn't. And so I knew something was up. And then when I was in class and I started really being able to see colors in my mind's eye, Carl, and the body, I went into this because I was interested in the healing part. And then I got sucked into everything else. And that's when I realized once you connect with spirit, you can do it all. But it was interesting because as my skills were developing, I went from colors when I was scanning somebody's body to a grid that reminded me of an architectural grid with the fine blue lines. And then eventually it developed into being able to see body parts. inside people's bodies. I can see broken bones, torn ligaments, viral infections, bacterial infections, cancer, metastasized cancer, all of that. I'm like a human MRI. And so it developed at that point. And then I see spirit do a healing with that person, and it's spirit working through me and with me to help that person heal themselves. And that can take the form, Carl, of something getting added, something getting removed. I watch procedures all the time in my mind's eye that emulate what I saw in surgery for all those decades when we were in there developing products, testing prototypes with my team and the surgical team and things like that. And I think the most important thing to remember in healing is nobody ever heals anybody else. We always help the person heal themselves. No doctor, no medical provider, no healer like me ever heals anybody else. And my analogy for that, Carl, is think of if you have a big cut in your leg, on your leg, and you go to the emergency room, the doctor's going to stitch it up. The doctor doesn't make your skin grow back, you make your own skin grow back. And I think that's a great metaphor for how all of this works. So the work that I do, especially on the medical side of the equation, is part of the healing. And it's a big puzzle. Western medicine, as we know it, Eastern medicine, complementary medicine, energy medicine, it's all part of the healing equation to help the person heal themselves.
If you can see all these things in the human body, I mean, I did read this too in your book that it's not like if you meet somebody, you're not going to automatically scan them. I mean, you can turn it on and off when needed, right?
Yeah, instantly. And that's what I teach. You do not need to meditate for an hour first, twirl 3 times, jump on your right foot and raise your left hand. You can if you want, but it's not necessary. No, it's a nanosecond. You're right. I only scan people with their permission. And if I don't get permission, I don't scan. Now, when I'm asked to scan somebody else, usually it's a family member or a loved one. Can you scan my daughter or my granddaughter or my friend or my mom or whomever? Except when it comes to college football and I'm texting with my son and he went to the University of Alabama and he'd say, "Mom, scan whoever who's hurt. He's on the field."
Aw.
So the player will be down and I'll ask the player's permission as I'm watching him on TV. I'll say, "Hey, Johnny, can I scan you? Do I have permission to scan you?" He's like, yeah, fix it. So I get back in the game.
But, I do want to, again, refer to your book called Angelic Attendants. Let's talk about angels. What role do angels play in your life, and what role do they play in each of our lives?
Well, we all have a guardian angel, and that guardian angel stays with us through all of our lifetimes, which I thought was really cool when I learned that. The guardian angel is there. They're kind of like our Secret Service detail that's always with us. They'll call in other angels and spirits of loved ones and others if we need them. It's where I see them the most is when somebody's dying, they're very much present. And when somebody's having surgery, the guardian angel is always floating over the head of anesthesia. And I can scan a room, whether it be a surgical suite or somebody's house. Like if somebody has a mold problem, we can scan their house and say, "Okay, upper left eaves on the 2nd floor, back left bedroom. You got rotting wood, you got a leak in between the walls." And they give that to their contractor, and their contractor's saying, "How do you know this?" Because I can see it in my mind's eye. So guardian angel is always over the head of anesthesia in the operating room, surgeon spirits over the heads of the actual surgeons, and then loved ones' spirits are in the room as well. I think angels are always around us, and they're able to help us in a multitude of ways, really unlimited ways. All we have to do is ask, because angels and all other spirits are not going to interfere, but they're, Johnny, ready on the spot for when we have a request. And I always suggest to people, start out with something small, like, "Hey, angels, I need a parking spot in front of this restaurant." Like as you're driving into the parking lot, you can do that too, but it probably would be helpful just from our time of frame standpoint, just to ask. We actually, my latest book, and there's another one coming out before the end of the year. It's called Angel Messages for Your Life's Journey. Volume 1 was released last year. Volume 2 is coming out this year. And it's graduates of my class and real time, real life stories where angels and other spiritual occurrences have happened that are just unimaginable. You think, you can't make that up. Or people before, I think, would say things like, oh, that's just a coincidence, or that's just whatever. Well, no coincidences there. It's all angel intervention a lot of the time, other deceased loved ones' intervention. I have a graduate, speaking of angels, this just came to my mind, Carl, who she has one of those outside cameras of her house, that scans the perimeter of her house, a security camera. And she asked Archangel Michael for something. And the next morning, something told her to look at the camera out on her back deck. And not only was there a beam of light, there was a beam of light in the shape of a sword.
Oh, wow.
Like an old-fashioned, sword that you see St. Michael depicted with a shield and sword, like an ancient Roman soldier sword kind of a thing. It is clear as day.
Oh, wow.
On that video, that's just one example. And they're endless. And people say, well, I don't know if I buy that. And I say, well, have you ever thought of somebody and then they call you or they text you or you run into them or you get an email from them seemingly out of the blue, although you've been thinking of them for 24 hours. And most people have had that experience. They say, yeah, well, it's just a coincidence. I've just been thinking of you. There's no coincidence there. That's their intuition at play. So angels appear to me, Carl, I'm a Catholic schoolgirl, 12 years. They're big. They got big wings. They got a white gown. They got a rope belt. They're barefoot. That's how I was taught they look, like in the, paintings and statuary. Is that what they really look like? Well, that's what they look like to me. To somebody growing up in an indigenous culture in the middle of the Amazon, they may see angel energy as just a ball of green energy or something. So spirit's always going to appear to us in a way that we can understand what they're trying to convey.
One thing I found interesting, you stated a little while ago, our guardian angels stay with us through all lifetimes, not just one. So when I transition to a different lifetime, that same guardian angel stays with me?
Even in between lifetimes in heaven. Yeah. Because remember, time doesn't exist in the spirit world. Time's a human creation. So yeah, I find that fascinating. The other fun thing that I find fascinating too, a couple of points on that, Carl. Number one, there are lots of schools of thought that we live multiple lifetimes concurrently.
Yes.
That makes my head want to explode because I don't understand it from a human perspective. So I go with, okay, is it feasible? Yeah. Do I understand it? No. Will I understand it when I'm back in heaven? Yeah. So that appeases me in the short run. The other thing is, most of us, certainly those of us raised in a Judeo-Christian culture here in the West, we have been taught that we're made in the image and likeness of God. And I think most of us believe that, okay, God looks something like Father Time, old man, long hair, white beard, white gown, sitting on a throne on a cloud or something. That's not what I believe now, Carl. What I believe now is that we're all made in the image and likeness of God in spirit form. And if God can be everywhere all at the same time, because God is energy, spirit is energy, and we're a fractal of the divine, we're made in the image and likeness of God. Okay, we can be in multiple places at the same time too. Now that pertains to our guardian angel. Our guardian angel is going to be with us in all those concurrent lifetimes. And we can be in multiple places at the same time too. Not just, I teach remote viewing and non-local reality where we can be in different places. That's how I can see inside the operating room or see inside your house. It's called It's called remote viewing. I'm using plasma energy to be in a different place real time. But I also think that all of these different realities that are happening concurrently, again, we're a fractal of the divine and we can be in multiple places at the same time.
I think even quantum physics has shown definitively that objects or energy can be in multiple places at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Which to the non-scientific mind, non-quantum physicists, I kind of feel like Scooby-Doo sometimes. I want to go, huh? What? I don't understand it, but I don't think we're supposed to understand and know everything. We're supposed to have the human experience.
I have a question. Have you ever had a psychic or spiritual experience that actually shook you up, either in a bad or good way?
Oh, I've had many that I just think, whoa, that's amazing. And thousands of them with clients, especially, and also myself. But bad, no, because all spirits are pure love. And when I've had people over the years, not very many, but a few over the years say, now, Carl, I got this evil spirit that's following me around, telling me all this awful stuff, and it's keeping me awake at night, and blah, 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 blah. And I go, well, that's your interpretation of what the spirit is saying. Because remember, back to spirits communicate numbers, how that person was decoding, deciphering those numbers was based in fight or flight. And I can remember being at so many slumber parties, Carl, where we'd be screaming, a bunch of fifth grade girls screaming and scared out of our minds and stuff. So we're taught to be afraid of things we don't understand, especially if there's a spirit thing that comes in. And so what I say is, okay, you're in fight or flight when that happens, which is an autonomic nervous system response that the body does when we are afraid. But the body doesn't know the difference between a real fear and a fake fear. So a spirit showing up and you're feeling a spirit, well, you're in fight or flight. What happens? Your cortisol levels go up, your norepinephrine levels go up, which adds to the stress of the situation. The blood drains from your brain, goes to your heart and your extremities, so you can run away fast and you lose clarity. I have a fun story that's a great example. May I share it?
Sure, yeah.
About that? One of my girlfriends was telling me, this happened before I met her. She was telling me that she said, I have an evil spirit trying to get in my house. And I told it to leave. And I said, there aren't any evil spirits. All spirits are pure love. And if somebody is like a mass murderer or something, that personality trait stays with the body when somebody dies. It's as if we're playing a role in a movie each lifetime. Our personality traits, all of that stay with the body. So I said, well, tell me about what happened, because I can do an instant replay, because again, time doesn't exist in the spirit world. Time's a human creation. So she was telling me about it. I could see in my mind's eye exactly what was happening. So she's got these really thick wooden double doors in the front of her house, and there's a spirit trying to get through the door. Now, the spirit's just all energy. It doesn't have the mass of a body. And it looked like one of those old time bank robbers that would put pantyhose on their face to hide their identity when they went in to rob a bank, or a ski mask or something. So this spirit, as it's coming through her door, looks like he's got pantyhose on his face. And it was scary looking. And so she got up, Carl, and she had an umbrella stand next to her front door, and it had her son's golf club in it with the umbrellas. And so she took the golf club and she went to swing at it. And I said, do you think it would have worked? It was just energy you were swinging. I'd be like swinging at fog, trying to get it to leave. And she said, you are not welcome in my house. You have to leave. Okay. Fast forward, we found out who the spirit was. I was able to talk to the spirit real time, who the spirit was. He was a Confederate soldier that died in the line of duty. He was looking for his daughter. His daughter's spirit had reincarnated as my friend's daughter. We got his name, where he was born, his death certificate, the regiment he was in, like all that jazz in the Confederate Army. Likewise, we got the daughter's information, her name, when she was born, when she died, all of that. Got their spirits reunited, sent them off into the light, and my girlfriend had a very different understanding of what a scary spirit was.
Wow, that's interesting. I'm curious, but you say all spirits are love, but so many people believe in the evil spirits. Is it possible for the spirit itself to have had a bad experience in life and carry that attitude into their spirit life and believe that they have evil energy even though they're in spirit form?
No, I've heard tens of thousands of times that all spirits are pure love and joy. And that snarky personality profile stays with the body when somebody dies.
Hmm.
And you think about throughout history, what have governments and cultures and religions done to control the masses? They've used fear.
Right.
Certainly, that was on full display with the COVID stuff. People were doing stupid stuff like, washing their grocery bags when they got home and things. I mean, it was nuts what people were doing because they were so afraid. And when we're in fear, we lose clarity
Mhm.
and we follow what people tell us to do, whether it's a government or a religion or whatever. And certainly up until, let's say, 150 years ago, maybe even 200 years ago, most people were illiterate. They couldn't read and write.
Mhm.
So throughout history, people have always done what those that were in a position of power, whether it be religious or governmental or cultural, what they're telling them to do.
Yeah, very, very good point on that. Yeah. And, there's still sections of the world like that, illiterate and so easy to control. Um, so I'm really curious about this. How do you actually heal a person's body even though they may not be physically present with you?
Oh, they're never physically present unless my husband or one of my grandsons or something, and I happen to be with them. I raise my vibrational level to the level of spirit. I watch a laser beam come from my body wherever I am, hook into that person's body. So it's my spirit communicating with their spirit. And then it's as if I'm a human MRI. I can see inside their body again with their permission and see broken bones, torn ligaments, viral infections, bacterial infections, cancer, other diseases. I had a client recently, Carl, and when I got her on my radar, it's like I see a hologram of them in my mind's eye, and then
Mhm.
I'll shoot energy through it. And then I always go in blind first when I'm scanning somebody, not when they call into my show, they're calling in with a specific thing, like my back hurts. Can you scan my back? Or my ankle hurts, or something like that. Um, but when I have somebody for an hour as a private client, I'll make several swipes. And I always go in blind first because I want to see where the energy is going to go. It's
Mhm.
always going to go to the most needed area first. And oftentimes that's something perhaps even that's asymptomatic, and we're heading off a problem at the past before it becomes a problem. Or it can be a root cause of other symptoms that they have that perhaps their doctors haven't figured out yet. Most people come to me. I have 5 graduates that work with me too, 5 graduates of my program who, just because bandwidth, only so many hours in the day. And I brought in I brought in help. And people can get in to see my graduates who are all fabulous, way easier and faster than they can, get in to see me. Although I do have priority appointments, and most of the time you can get in to see me within a matter of days or weeks on their priority appointments. But we then the energy, something will be identified, and immediately thereafter there will be some type of energetic healing that happens. So it's a matter of the shortest distance is a straight line, right, between 2 points, and it's my spirit connecting with that person's spirit. And again, it doesn't matter whether a spirit is attached to a body or not. I'm not going to do a physical scan on somebody that's in heaven, but we can communicate with them and figure out when your past lives were together and get lots of information, where it was, when it was, what was the year, what was happening, get information a lot of the time that we can validate with historic documentation we have access to online.
Well, I was wondering, I mean, I just thought I'd ask this. Would you be able for maybe a couple minutes scan me and see if there's anything
Sure,
I might need to work on? I don't want to
sure.
make you work for free, but I just wondered if
Yeah,
you.
yeah. Do you have something, you have a symptom you want me to hone in on just for time management,
Sure.
time
Well,
management sake?
I've been a runner for many, many years, and in the last year or two, I've really slowed down, and I have like my hips and my
Hips.
SI joint are like locked up or frozen up. What's the old country term? They're stove up. And I can't generate anything, any speed. I'm running, but it's like, like a sloth. And I'm wondering what's going on if you
Yeah.
will see anything there.
Well, the interesting thing about that, Carl, is when I said, "Do you have any symptoms?" I get, before I get somebody on my radar, even I get what I call divine downloads, and I'm hearing, check his hips. That, and then you said, "Yeah, my hips and my SI joints are kind of out of whack." So here we go. Here comes my laser beam from Sweet Home, Alabama, heading up to you in Columbus, the city of my birth. And got you up there. All right, shooting energy from your feet up through the top of the head, your head. It's going to your right hip first. And what I'm watching happen is it needs a lube job, basically, Carl, on the right hip anyways. So I'm watching stem cell energy go in there, light amber colored gel, has sparkles in it. Reminds me of this hair gel called Dippity Doo that was a thing when I was a kid in the 60s and 70s. You may have heard of it. They
Mhm.
still sell it on Amazon, which I think is hilarious.
Oh my God.
And there's a vortex spinning outside of it, and that's regenerating the lubrication and all the inner workings. It's kind of like putting WD-40 on a hinge.
Mhm.
That's it's working, but it's not super smooth and it's a little squeaky. So same thing on the other side, on the left side. You've got a little bit of scar tissue on the left side. Did you have an injury on your left hip or on the left side at one point that you know of?
No, I don't know.
Removing the scar tissue, which looks like a fibrous spider web,
Hmm.
interestingly enough. So I'm watching that get cut out. Imagine a cross between a spider web and a basketball hoop net. That's kind of what scar tissue looks like in the body. So getting that out. Scar tissue can inhibit mobility because it tethers the movement. It's like you don't have full range of motion because the scar tissue is tethering those body parts, putting some stem cell energy in there, light amber colored gel. Sparkles, you gotta have sparkles. It's woo woo. It's gotta be fun. And reminds me of Dippity Doo. And there's a vortex spinning outside. Interesting human perspective of what I'm seeing whenever stem cell energy is used. See if this makes sense to you. We learned in grade school science class that every cell has a nucleus and every nucleus is surrounded by cytoplasm. Cytoplasm's a watery gel like Dippity Doo. And our bodies have a centrifugal force in them that spins that causes our cells to divide and replicate to the tune of billions of them a day. So, Spirit's using that analogy for me to convey to you a human perspective of the energy healing that's happening. When the Dippity Doo analogy came in many years ago, I heard from Spirit, it's like Dippity Doo. And I thought, oh, seriously? And I said to Spirit, really? You want me to use Dippity Doo? And I heard, yeah. And I said, why? And I heard, because people your age are going to know what it is. Everybody else can look it up, and it's funny. And I said, what does funny have to do with anything? And I heard, you're supposed to have fun when you're doing any kind of work with spirit because spirit is pure love and joy. Fun is a high vibration. When we're in pain, when we're worried about a medical condition, we're on the I feel crappy channels. It's a low vibration. Spirit's communicating to us, but we can't hear it. You know, you're an old jock. You could be on the country music station, right? And you were doing it when they had the old time whiny country music songs, and we were complaining about Mama the truck and the dog. And Spirit didn't communicate on that station because it feels bad when you listen to that some of those songs. I mean, it make you depressed. Spirit's on the high vibe stations, the classical music. I tend to say disco music. You can't listen to disco music and be in a bad mood. You and I grew up during the disco era,
Yep.
right? You
Yep.
can't be in a bad mood and listen to disco music. So, spirit is always communicating to us. And when we've got a medical, especially thing going on, or when we're in grief because a loved one has passed, or we're worried about somebody who's not feeling well or is having problems, or we ourselves are, that's a low vibration. Spirit wants us to have fun doing this. We're supposed to do this in joy. Those are the high vibration levels. So there's always a method to the madness for spirit. And sometimes we just have to ask, I have to go, why the heck would you want me to use dippity do as an analogy?
So let me ask on my hip, and it's a little bit my lower back too. Dippity do analogy. It's a healing plasma energy with sparkles in it that is working on it. And is that
That's right.
loosening up my torso?
It's
My
we just gave you a lube job basically on your hips. As far as your back goes, you've got a little bit of a protruding disc on the low back left side. And discs look like half-filled water balloons to me. Here come the analogies again. And the vertebrae, what I'm watching is the vertebrae get propped up where it needs to be. And have you ever had a tile mason lay tile on a floor or perhaps a countertop or a backsplash?
Yeah, I've done it.
Okay. Well, those tile spacers that you use before you put the grout in. I see those used all the time, and they'll prop up the vertebrae to put them in the proper position. I watch the disc get put back in. You got a little bit of disc degeneration going on in your low back. So a little blob of dippity doo on there, stem cell energy, vortex spinning behind your back. There's always a vortex, back to the vortex mathematics, right? It's numerals that I'm seeing in the form of a vortex. And then my favorite part about back healings, Carl, is I see this little fine netting that's applied from the upper to the lower vertebrae. And it reminds me of a goldfish net. And that keeps the disc in place. It's not there when we're born or when we're just living our lives, but I see it used in back healings all the time. And interestingly enough, when I scan somebody maybe a few years down the road, that netting is still there, keeping that disc in place, which I find fascinating. I get to see so many amazing things from spirit, and it appeals to my inventor brain. You may hear me say, "Oh, this is cool. I haven't seen this before." And then it's a healing that I watch that's specific for that person. And then it's just kind of in my repertoire from there on. So the healings happened on the energetic level. It's done. And then it needs to integrate into your body. That can happen instantly. It can take days, weeks, months, may need complementary care, change in diet, physical therapy, whatever. What I'm getting for you is to use the intermittent heat and cold, the cold plunge, the heat
I have
kind
been
of thing.
doing that. I have.
Yeah, yeah, that's good to do that. And the other thing that I'm getting is don't worry about speed at this point. What I'm hearing from spirit,
Yeah.
it's more about it's less trauma to your skeletal system at this point, and you'll be able to run longer in your life if you just go and honor how your body is working.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you. I really, really appreciate that. I've only been running for 45 years, so I want to
Yeah.
just keep going. But
Yeah.
we are speaking of the amazing Julie Ryan, and medical intuitive, a psychic, amazing author and entrepreneur. We're going to wind up in a few minutes here, but you are really involved in helping people and animals who are dying. So I think now is a great time to talk about the 12 phases of transition.
Yeah, yeah. That's how we're surrounded by angels and the spirits of deceased loved ones and pets. Anybody, pets, not pests, pets. Anybody that wants a free copy of Angelic Attendants, What Happens as We Transition from This Life into the Next, just go to askjulieryan.com. It's on the homepage. You'll see, get your free copy, or julieryangift.com. And it has, in the book, Carl, it has illustrations of how the angels and our loved ones, spirits, and pets are positioned. So the 12 phases of transition are how the configuration of all those spirits that are present, how they change as the person gets closer and closer to passing. And the first time I ever saw this was when my own mother was dying in Columbus, Ohio, in 2002. And I'd never been around anybody that was dying before. And I had been studying woo woo for a while at that point, and probably about 10 years. And so I thought, yeah, I'm just going to turn on my radar and see, see if I can scan her, see what's going on. Oh, my word. What I saw was incredible and became the 12 phases of transition. May I share that?
Sure, go for it. Yeah.
When somebody's dying, their spirit exits through the top of the head, and it holds on to the top of the head in a bubble configuration. Think of a speech bubble in a cartoon where the character's thoughts or words are. And then the next thing that happens is the closest maternal spirit to the person who's dying, they show up. Now, my mother's deceased, so when it's my turn to go, she will be there. If she was still alive, it would be my maternal grandmother. If she was still alive, it would be her mother. It's always on the maternal line. Interestingly enough, that's the spirit that runs things from the spirit side of the equation. They bring in the angels, they bring in the other spirits. And that really surprised me, Carl. I thought, and it was my Meemaw, my grandmother, who had just died 6 months prior to my mother dying. And I thought, really? Meemaw's there and she's running the show. I mean, like running the show like clockwork. Didn't pay attention to any of the rest of us in the room. She was focused on my mother. And I thought, well, God, I figured God had some, dying department in heaven, and he had a department that would dispatch an angel or a bunch of angels to the person who was dying, and they would run the show. No, it's the maternal spirit closest to the person who's dying. And that always also is an effect for adopted people. It's the adopted mom.
Okay.
The mom that raises them. Even if I have people say, oh my gosh, my mom was just awful. She's the last person I would want with me when I'm dying. I'd say, that's her person. That was her personality. That stayed with her body when she died. Her spirit is pure love and joy. So the paternal spirit shows up next. Once the maternal spirit's in there, then these angels show up. And I described them earlier. Big angels, big wings. With the parent spirits, let's say at the foot of the bed, just for conversation's sake, the angels join them and they form a circle around the person who's dying. As the person gets closer to death, that circle opens up into a horseshoe, eventually a straight line across the foot of the bed. And those angels are, I call it angelic crowd control, because they're holding back all the billions of spirits that have joined, that are what I call the Welcome to Heaven Committee. And they're kind of like the line of demarcation between the spirit world and the human world. And a couple of fun nuances. May I share those?
Oh, sure.
Okay. First, well, and even before that, university-based research, Carl, shows that 90% of people at the end of their lives see the spirits of deceased loved ones and pets. 90%. And it used to be that we thought, oh, grandma's just hallucinating because it's the morphine. No, it's not. Grandma is actually able to see her deceased mother's spirit, who's been dead for 60 years, and
Mm.
communicate with them. So when you get science catching up to woo woo, it's a good thing because the woo woo's been around since the beginning of time.
Right.
Couple of nuances that I find fascinating. About phase five-ish, six-ish, there are two additional angels that show up and they're on either side of the spirit bubble. And they were just hanging out. And I saw them with my mom and I thought, I have no clue what these angels are going to do, but I knew they were going to play a role. About phase 9, their wings start to move, these two additional angels on either side of the spirit bubble. And it reminded me when I saw it with my mom and as I see it now, it reminds me of like a giant owl with those massive wings.
Mhm.
And they're silent and they're smooth and they're slow and they're rhythmic. But you can almost feel the drag that those wings create. That's what was happening. And after a while, the movement of the angel's wings was causing a vortex to form above my mother's head. And I thought, oh, I'll bet this is how her spirit's going to separate from her body. And sure enough, it was. People who've had a near death experience, an NDE, oftentimes will report going through a vortex or a tunnel. That's what they're talking about. And with my mother, I could feel this sucking sensation. It reminded me of being in the car wash at the end when they turn the dryers on and it sucks all the water off your car. That's what it felt like. It was powerful in my mom's room. And I thought, isn't this fascinating? This spiritual phenomenon is causing something in my human world that I can see, I can hear, I can feel. And they're working together. So when I was writing Angelic Attendants, and then those angels, once the spirit comes out of the vortex, they escort the spirit to heaven. I'll talk about that more in a minute. So when I was writing Angelic Attendants, I thought, I'm just gonna, for kicks, I'm just doing an internet search on owl wings vortex. Carl, come to find out, there's this thing called the wingtip vortex.
Mm.
That is an aeronautical engineering phenomenon about how the air goes over the wings. It creates a vortex underneath the wings, causes upward lift. Every jet, every plane, every glider, every kite, every bird, every bug has wingtip vortices that are causing them lift and enabling them to fly. If you do an internet search on that, you will find thousands of articles and aeronautical engineering drawings and research, and every pilot knows about the wingtip vortex. So that's happening when somebody's dying. The other thing that's interesting is 2 points. Number one, I always see the spirit going up and to the right. And I thought, I don't know what that's about. For years, I didn't know what it was. I just watched him get carried up and to the right. So I was giving a talk about this one time, and there was a physicist professor in my audience. And he came up to me afterwards. He said, I know why the spirit goes up and to the right. And I said, oh, enlighten me, please. And he said, well, think about when you're screwing a lid on a jar, you screw it clockwise to get it to go down. When you want to remove it, you screw it counterclockwise, goes to the left, and you lift it up. So the last rotation is going up and to the right.
Yeah.
So when that spirit's coming out of that vortex and getting lift, it's going up and to the right.
Wow.
Okay. Again, science is catching up with woo-woo. And then the third point that I find really fascinating, Carl, is at the end of every Roman Catholic funeral, there's a prayer called In Paradisum that's either said or sung. In Paradisum, translated from Latin into English, means into paradise. And it talks about how the angels and your loved ones will greet you and lead you into paradise. And at my mother's funeral, I thought, whoa, that's what I saw happen. And I had heard that prayer. Yeah, how many funerals had I been to at that point in my 40s? A lot of Catholic funerals. Heard that prayer many, many, many countless times. Never thought about it in that way because I had just witnessed it with my mom. So I did some research on that to find out where that prayer originated. and learned that it began as a 5th century Gregorian chant. So perhaps it took till the 5th century till somebody was well educated enough to be able to read and write. And certainly back then, some of the most learned people were men living in monasteries and synagogues. And I believe that that tells me that people have been able to see this since the beginning of time, and perhaps took till the 5th century till somebody could write something down about it.
Wow, this is just amazing information. I'm just blown away by it all. I did download the free ebook version of Angelic Attendants, and I've got more reading to do on it. Just amazing. We're gonna wind up here with Julie Ryan. Now, I do want you to tell people about your phenomenal podcast, Ask Julie Ryan. People can ask you questions. You've got amazing guests like we do here on World Awakenings. You've been doing it a long time, right?
Yeah, we release 4 shows a week, Carl, and 3 are interviews, and 1's my live call-in show. And of course, it's recorded so people can listen to it when it's convenient for them. We're on all the podcast networks. We've got 5 YouTube channels in 5 languages. Everything's at Ask Julie Ryan. We dub the episodes. It's pretty funny watching myself on video and I'm speaking Spanish going blah, 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 blah. Okay. We do Spanish, Portuguese, French, German, and of course English. And we're doing a live stream on the YouTube video as well on the live show Thursday nights, 8 Eastern, 7 Central, 5 Pacific. And people call in from all over the world and ask questions from the buffet of psychicness. We do a lot of medical stuff. We talk to deceased loved ones. We do past lives. We do, I had it was kind of like an international show last Thursday. We had somebody from Vienna. We had somebody from Portugal, Australia, and the UK. And those Europeans, they're up in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
And the Australian, we were talking to them real time in the future. So I'd say this is like a sci-fi movie. But you can put questions in the chat on the YouTube live stream. It's at Ask Julie Ryan, or you can call into the show and be on camera. And so it's so much fun, Carl, because who knows who's calling, what their question's going to be, what Spirit's going to say. And many people tell me and have told me over the years, whatever Susie called in about, she's having trouble with her knee. I was having the same issue. I listened to the healing you did on Susie and my knee doesn't hurt anymore. Yeah. So, yeah.
You're not bored, are you?
No, it's a lot of fun. Everything. Ask Julie Ryan on all the social media, on my show.
And that's your website too, right?
AskJulieRyan.com.
Wow. And I will have that in the show notes too. Well, this has just been an incredible chat. You are doing amazing things for the world and the people. And I got to go find some dippity-doo on Amazon. Put it on my hip. Oh, wait, you already did that.
Yeah. So now it's your Spirit's prerogative how you're going to integrate it, when, all of that stuff. Because it's like a gift. You can give somebody a gift, but you can't make them open it. And you can't make them like it. And this is the same thing. What we were talking about when we first started this conversation. Nobody heals anybody else. We all heal ourselves.
Yeah, beautiful stuff. So, Julie Ryan, thank you for being on World Awakenings. What a blessing.
Oh, my honor. It's so nice to meet you and get to chat with you.
This has been another episode of World Awakenings, the fast track to enlightenment with host Carl Gruber, a certified law of attraction life coach. We welcome you to tune in to each and every episode of World Awakenings as we open your mind, your heart, and your eyes to the fact that the world's population is now, more than ever, awakening to the truth of all things spiritual, metaphysical, and enlightening, and just how much they play an all-important role in our moment-to-moment daily life. Much love and light to you, my friend, and thank you for tuning into World Awakenings.